The story of David and Goliath is a powerful and inspiring tale that demonstrates the power of faith in overcoming seemingly unmanageable obstacles. As we delve into this remarkable account from the King James Version, we will explore the depth and significance of the events that unfolded between a young shepherd boy and a fearsome giant. We will learn valuable lessons on how to combat our own personal Goliaths and apply these principles in our daily lives. Scripture reference 1 Samuel 17. The Philistines gathered together their armies for battle with Israel. The two armies met on opposing sides of a steep valley, camped for combat. During 40 days, a Philistine giant over 9 feet tall and dressed in full armor appeared, taunting and challenging the Israelis to fight. His name was Goliath. Goliath scared Saul, king of Israel, and his entire army. David, Jesse's youngest son, was dispatched to the fighting lines one day by his father to bring back word of his brothers. Goliath's daily challenge was heard by David while he was there, and he observed the profound terror awakened throughout the men of Israel. David responded, "Who is this uncircumcised Philistine that he should defy the armies of God?" So David volunteered to confront Goliath. It took some convincing, but King Saul ultimately consented to let David face the giant. David approached Goliath wearing a humble tunic and carrying his shepherd's rod, sling, and a pouch full of stones. The giant cursed at him, screaming threats and insults. David said to the Philistine, "Thou comest to me with a sword, and with a spear, and with a shield, but I come to thee in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel, whom thou hast defied. This day will the Lord deliver thee into mine hand, and I will smite thee, and take thine head from thee. And I will give the carcasses of the host of the Philistines this day, unto the fowls of the air, and to the wild beasts of the earth, that all the earth may know that there is a God in Israel. And all this assembly shall know that the Lord saveth not with sword and spear, for the battle is the Lord's, and he will give you into our hands." As Goliath approached, David reached inside his bag and hurled one of his stones at Goliath's head. It pierced the armor and plunged into the giant's forehead. He collapsed face down on the ground. David then killed Goliath with his sword and cut off his head. When the Philistines realized their hero was no longer alive, they fled in fear. A hero and a villain take the stage in one of the Bible's most well-known stories. Goliath, the villain, a Philistine warrior from Gath, stood nearly 9 feet tall, weighed 125 pounds of armor, and wielded a 15-pound spear. The Anakim, descendants of a race of giants that existed in Canaan, at the time Joshua and Caleb led the Israelites into the Promised Land, are thought by scholars to have been his ancestry. David, the hero, he was Israel's second and most significant king. His ancestors originated in Jerusalem's Bethlehem, commonly known as the City of David. David belonged to the Judah tribe and was the youngest son of Jesse's family. Ruth was his great-grandmother. He was not only a great warrior and king, but also a good shepherd and musician. Jesus Christ, who was sometimes referred to as the Son of David, being referred to as a man after God's own heart, was possibly David's greatest accomplishment. What can we learn from David and Goliath's lessons? David saw the giant in a different light because of his confidence in God. A single mortal man named Goliath dared to challenge an all-powerful God. David viewed the conflict from God's perspective. From God's vantage point, we can see that he will battle for and decide us in the face of enormous challenges and seemingly hopeless circumstances. Putting things into their appropriate perspective helps us see things more clearly and fight more strongly. David decided against wearing the king's armor because of how heavy and uncomfortable it felt. He felt comfortable using his simple sling, since he was skilled with it. So don't worry about wearing the king's armor. God will employ the special powers he's already given you. Just be who you are, and make use of the abilities and skills God has given you. He will work wonders through you. David didn't stop or even flinch when the giant scolded, insulted, and threatened him. When everyone else hid in fear, David raced into the fight. He was aware that something needed to be done. Despite discouraging taunts and terrifying threats, David acted honorably. Only God's opinion mattered to David,